All right, a lot to get into today. We're starting with Mark Groubert. I'm in Vienna, Austria now. We've got to sort of wired ourselves together, and I think we're going to pull this off. And I thought I needed to talk to somebody that's friendly, and Mark is a friend, and we got a lot to get into. He wants to talk about the supremacy of dogs. It'll make sense when we talk. Then I've been away for a while, and I was confused about a lot of things. Pulling away from the United States and looking back stateside, you sort of see things a little differently. And one of the things I could not understand is why the supremacy clause was not holding. So I said, please, I want to talk to a lawyer. Christina Bob is going to give me that. And in other podcasts last week, we ended up talking a lot about MKUltra. So I brought Shane Cashman in to get deeper into that topic. A lot to get into today. We'll start up right after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real.
We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time.
Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
All right, as I said, I'm in Vienna, Austria. I want to ask Caleb a quick question. Is the sound situation working?
Yes. Oh, yeah. You sound great.
Susan's mic?
Yeah, you sound fine. Right. Yeah, as long as Susan's muted.
Except I just missed the camera. I had my computer sort of balanced here. So what I want to explain is why we're here. I think I had mentioned it in previous episodes. How's the camera angle? Okay, Caleb? There we go.
Yeah, I'll adjust it.
All right. We had a dear family friend, someone who worked for us for over 35 years. She actually helped us raise our kids. She was a Polish woman. I'm hearing now Susan's.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So we're in a hotel room trying to pull this off. She worked for us for years, and she had a stroke about 3 months ago. And as soon as she got sick, she announced she wants to go back to her homeland in Poland, be with her son and daughter and sisters. And we immediately said, we will take care of that. We'll get you there. But in the meantime, I had to get her to work through the Kaiser system, which was hell. Some of what they did was excellent. Some of it was unspeakably incompetent, as far as I'm concerned. But I was there supervising, and pushing things along. And we did get her placed and rehabilitated, and she went from bedridden in a diaper, hemiplegic, to independent walking, still some hand problems. Actually, it's her right hand. Speech all back, cognition all back, daily activities, toiletry, showers, all that she handles on her own. And so she's going to be living independently about an hour outside of Warsaw, Warsaw was an incredible. I recommend it most highly. The Polish are wonderful. The city is coming on so strong. I hear that Trump wants them to join the G20. They're growing so quickly. It makes you feel, when you see the extraordinary ability of this culture and these people, you just think, oh my God, what were we doing in World War II? Which makes me think also about what we are doing now. And I want Mark Groubert to explain a little bit of that to me. So again, on the way home, the only way we could get a ticket was to go through Vienna. So we're in Vienna, and then we're going to be going home. So you can follow Mark on X, Lord Buckley, also X, America's Untold Stories, which is his podcast. The book is Rehab Nation, Inside the Secret World of Celebrity Drug Rehabs. He and I have talked about this topic, and we talked about, unforeseen celebrity catastrophes that have come across our media landscape recently. But there's a lot more that Mark has been involved with. He has been a writer, a journalist, a screenwriter, and he has, in my world, been one of the people I rely on to predict the future. So, Mark, that's one of the reasons I have you here.
Sure. It's easy for me to come back because I've already gone to the future and will have the answers to your questions, Dr. Drew.
Well, speaking of that, did you see that? I don't know if this is apocryphal or not, but the Daily Mail and some other British papers reporting that Trump is going to give a major announcement on May 1st about UFOs and non-human biologics. Did you see that announcement? There it is.
I've heard this being leaked out in the past few weeks. I didn't see this particular announcement today, but there has been rumors of this coming.
All right. Well,
I don't know anything more than that. I know that he has now taken to trial. The BBC is going to go to trial in South Florida for defaming him for manipulating the videos from January 6th. So that has been given a green light. And that multi-billion-dollar lawsuit.
As it pertains to the UFO stuff, the one thing I would learn from this is you are at your peril to question or ignore Joe Rogan, because he has been on that stuff for quite some time, and he had exquisite judgment when it came to Epstein. He had some intermediary try to get him to come to lunch, and the guy tried to sweeten the deal by going, and we'll have Woody Allen come along with us. Don't worry, neither of them are child abusers.
And well, I don't think Woody Allen's a child abuser, but nevertheless, they try to sweeten it, and he, to his credit, did not take the bait.
Yeah, really didn't. So talk to me about dogs. I sort of telegraphed.
Yeah, it's a recent thing. I've been so obsessed with the UK because I've neglected to look at what's going on over there. And the past couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of different intellectual podcasts of people telling me what's going on in the UK. I can't get my mind around how it got so dark, so bad, so quickly. And what I've learned is, as you probably know, they do not have a First Amendment. They do not have a Second Amendment. And we take these things for granted, Drew. They had a thing, I think in the 80s, called the Malicious Communications Act. And in that Malicious Communications Act, this predates social media. It says, causing needless anxiety is a crime that you could be jailed for. They have jailed this year alone over 12,000 people for social media violations, more than every country in the world, including China, combined. For instance, in the US, the number is 50. And the 50 are basically, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to blow up the White House, that kind of stuff. So we've had about 50 in a country of 360 million people be arrested for crazy social media posts. They've had 12,000 in this year alone.
I opened my social media thread today, and I have to say, on some level, that's kind of appealing to me.
There is an appeal to it. Absolutely.
The vitriol. But I am on the record. I want everybody's First Amendment protected. I see all kinds of horrible stuff being said. What was it? There was something just a couple of days ago where people were getting all upset about it. And I thought to myself, no. I don't like it, but the person's got a right to say it. I would protect it all the way. God, what was it? It'll come to me in a few minutes.
I don't know, but Australia, again, with the same type of logic, has gone full anti-Hamas, anti-Palestinian flags, slogans, Nazi lingo, and now subject to 3 years in jail. They are going batshit crazy down there, the pro-Hamas, non-Palestinian white Australians are fighting the police in the streets because they have now finally had enough after the Bondi Beach slaying of the Jews to pass actual legislation, a type of hate speech, to stop them from using Palestinian slogans, Palestinian flags, anti-Semitic statements, pro-Hamas statements. They have made all of it illegal. Also in the guise of protecting a minority. So that situation has completely reversed itself overnight in Australia. Fascinating to watch that social experiment, Drew.
Well, social experiment indeed. That's kind of why I was going down this MKUltra path today, is because I opened by talking about World War II and Poland and how they demolished this beautiful culture, and what happens to humans in these mass movements, these hysterias. It's interesting. Eric Larson wrote a book called it's about 1939 Germany through the eyes of the American ambassador at the time, and he and some of the Germans who worked in the office were talking at the time about an hysteria that had swept Germany. And I thought, well, there it is again. And this all feels very hysterical. so many of these things that's going on in our country, that's going on in Australia. I don't quite get, well, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Someone's got to blow wind into the sails. And that has been a moneyed class, that has been globalist, that has been occult, this dark state and the intelligence community. Is that what really gets these things going? And again, looking back at MKUltra, I was studying it a little bit before we came in here. The things that they thought were a good idea were just unbelievably horrible. And that's what people convince themselves of. They get almost hypnotized that bad ideas are good or important.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's the ideas themselves. I believe that this MKUltra 2.0, as I call it, is a real thing. I think it came through television. I think it came through, and this is just anecdotal from me. This is just my theory. I don't have any evidence of any of this. I believe that after X amount of hours watching political shows like on MSNBC or on a couple of other channels, something was triggered. Something was triggered. And I don't believe it's actual biological. I think it's an MKUltra 2.0 situation. We saw some of it in Japan years ago when the kids were triggered by anime and flashes on the screen, and they were rushed to hospitals in mass numbers. There is a history of them using the television in an attempt to create an MKUltra type program. And I think they broke through with this. I think, and just to talk in layman's terms, I don't know the psychological terms of it, but I believe if you watched 100, I'm just taking a number, 150 hours of MSNBC, something after 151 hours triggered this program that I call MKUltra 2.0.
What about this thing? Isn't this even more effective at that kind of stuff? I mean, couldn't somebody be doing something that just kind of got away from them?
This thing meaning?
You can't see the phone I'm holding up. I'm holding up a
hold on. I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here.
The phone itself.
Pulled up on iPhone.
No. But I mean, that's all over the map. I'm talking about having someone sitting in front of your program for 112 hours, and at the 113th hour, it's triggered by the sheer volume of the 112 hours or the 85 hours or the 50 hours, whatever it is, something happens in the 51st hour of you sitting watching the same thing, Drew. Yeah. Not randomly using a Hamilton Beach blender, which is the equivalent of the phone. I'm saying an actual program. MKUltra was an actual program, Drew, as you're well aware. Sidney Gottlieb was an actual person.
No, I read about it. They thought they were doing God's work. These were doctors, physicians were involved in it. But are you suggesting that journalists or administrators at the major, say, cable news outlets, or were they persuaded to do something that they didn't understand what they were doing?
I think some were, some weren't. And you could look at Joseph Goebbels' diary, for instance. Joseph Goebbels did not believe the anti-Semitic party line of the Third Reich. He says in his diaries, it's either them or us, meaning the Jews. They are highly intelligent. They are all through our culture. He is not part of the people who drank the Kool-Aid of the Third Reich. Goebbels is completely clear-headed that the Jews are not rodents and they're not vermin. He completely gets who they are. He says intellectually, it's either us or them. And I believe the leaders of this, the people running MKUltra 2.0, are also not Kool-Aid drinkers. They're the ones administering it. Well,
I saw a post by a woman I'm going to interview. I'm going to give you her name in a second. It's Catherine Borisenko. I guess she has some heritage where she'd been inoculated against, I was judging by her last name, against totalitarian regimes.
Yeah.
And she was recording the American Socialist Party or something, and their Zoom meetings. And here's why I bring this up, is that everyone who's not a socialist is either a Nazi a fascist or a racist. And I don't understand how that sticks. Why people allow that insanity? Like, no, I'm not a racist. I'm fascist. I mean, it's the oddest thing that we live in a world where intelligent people, first of all, call people that just to put them on their heels, and secondly, people get on their heels with it. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, these are Maoists, and you know this. I mean, this is a Mao cultural revolution that's going on with the students, and it has an anarchist bent to it. But the Cultural Revolution from 66 to 76, they wanted to get rid of the four olds, if you remember your Mao teachings in college. The old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. Now, doesn't that sound like the BLM movement? Doesn't that sound like George Floyd? Doesn't that sound like Antifa out on the West Coast? The destruction of statues, the destruction of books, the rewriting of history. Everything comes from Maoists. These are college area, college age, and college adjacent Maoists, Drew.
Yes. No. So Mao, that's what Mao did. He handed over the authority of the culture to the students. Who either killed or exiled or sent away, or dunce caps would march in the streets and all that stuff. Anybody who was in the establishment, doctors, lawyers, professors. And as with every mass action like that, the guillotines, the people who bring the mass action end up on the guillotines eventually as well. And so, of course, the professors themselves ended up in the in the Mao purging, the cultural purging, and didn't go well, right?
Well, he had to call out the army. He eventually called out his own army.
The country was sent. All the people with skill sets were dead or unable to work or whatever. And there was just a bunch of students who were sort of a true anarchy. Like, oh, you want to be the air traffic controller today? Okay, head on in. Good luck.
Well, isn't that DEI, Drew? Isn't that what we're seeing?
It's
the incompetency of having a DEI pilot, an air traffic controller who is helped on the test by certain allies. I mean, people didn't realize Mao also had the four news, which was new ideas, new culture, new customs, and new habits. That's what he was trying to implement to replace the old ideas. And that's also what these Marxists, totalitarians want to do here.
So what back to your crystal, what Adam Carolla calls his crystal brain. You kind of have a crystal brain too, Mark. So consulting your crystal brain, because I remember 15 years ago, you said, hey, mark my words, people on the left, are you going to use racism the way the right used communism during the McCarthy era? But even that was, it was accurate, but an underrepresentation of how far things have gone. So where are we going?
Like I said, I've said this for 40 years. Capitalism and socialism cannot exist under the same roof as two systems. And they have the collapse of the Soviet Union, which nobody seemed to give a shit about, allowed the former Soviets to both go to the UK, go to Brooklyn, and go to Beverly Hills. They have infiltrated into the Democratic Party. This has taken them 15 to 20 years. There are people in the UK who are ex-Soviets as well. They did not disappear. The Soviet European Union.
Hold on, I want to interrupt you. But everyone I've met who were from the former Soviet system are inoculated against it. They're like, oh, we've seen it. It's horrible. We're not going back. But strangely, if they gain a lot of money, Soros et al., they all of a sudden start behaving very strangely. What is, and that, as I said 15 minutes ago, that's where the wind is being blown into the sails of these movements. It's money and power and psychopaths in power.
The Soviet European Union is a parallel USSR that now exists in Western and Eastern Europe, mostly in Western Europe. It is the exact same version of the USSR. They have a central bank. They have states like the Warsaw Pact states. They have leaders that are powerless. The elections are meaningless. Every single thing is the exact, they have nuclear weapons. They're socialists. They have socialized medicine. The EU is the parallel recreation of the USSR, and Trump is finally going into a Cold War status with them by pulling the NATO rug out from under them, where they now will have to dip into their social economic welfare system to pay for their own defense. They attempted to keep this war going in the Ukraine. Yeah. They wanted it to go for 30 years. Trump has driven a dagger into it. I believe it'll end in May or June, finally, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Wait. What will end by May or June?
The Ukraine-Russian war.
Oh, that war. Okay, I thought you were calling for the end of the EU by May or June.
No. I'm not at all. I'm not at all. I am saying that they are
the French have an interesting woman. I see it. I know what you're talking about. I get it. And it's non-elected officials. For every single official, there's 150 lobbyists. They make all their money from the lobby, pushing, again, money seems to be, I was never of this opinion, but the more I see what's going on, the more I think money is people talk about the corporate government. It's just the money itself.
The influence of Chinese communist money in the EU is massive. Keep in mind, they produce nothing. They have no industrial base. The German industrial base has been gutted. The UK left via Brexit, and then they went against their own citizens, trying to crush them now, getting back to the original story of the dogs. That's why I thought this was important. The Brexit move, which they fought tooth and nail to prevent, was victorious legally and on paper. And then the elites of the UK turned against their own citizens, opening up the floodgates of immigration, which is the tip of the spear, like Biden showed us by opening up the southern border for 4 years, bringing in people from all over the planet Earth to literally change the demographics and economics of the United States in perpetuity. Trump now trying to get them out physically is a battle to the death. But the UK situation is a canary in the coal mine in a lot of ways. That's why I was mentioning the dogs. They want to move these Muslims that are in the urban areas to the rural areas so they can have voting pockets of Muslims who are voting leftist for their Labour Party. However, their arch enemy are dogs, which I find to be a fascinating thing. So they're now complaining that Muslims cannot go on weekend countryside picnics, Drew, because these rural racist Brits own dogs. They want them to get rid of their dogs. They want them to get rid of their dogs because they want to build housing projects in rural UK areas and move them out of urban areas and into the rural areas. They don't want to go there, the Muslims, because of the dogs. This is becoming a fascinating social experiment regarding the love of dogs versus Mohammed, who calls for the killing of dogs all around the world, and tens of thousands are killed every month in Muslim countries. This thing is crazy, crazy.
This is really interesting. It's really interesting.
Yes, it is, dogs, Drew. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Dogs are loved over here. They love the dog.
They're despised and must be killed by the other culture.
I just watched huge, it must have been a Weimaraner or something, walk into the restaurant with his owner. It was like, oh boy, it's on over here. I mean, people complain about having their little dogs in their purses on the plane. You got the St. Bernards coming in here, no problem.
This is not a situation.
I got to take a little break. I'll take a little break. And just so I don't forget, I will just finish the one thought I was trying to push out there, which is the French have an interesting woman in the EU named Marianne Maréchal, and she is bringing some rational discourse. And French, the Germans ruined their energy. They imploded, literally blew up all of their nuclear power plants, ended their energy circumstance. Yeah, I'm going to keep Mark here, guys. And I have to take a little break though first. And then the French, Macron is all in on the Soviet system of the EU, but there's the younger French who are starting to go, hey, no, it's not working for us. And what does it mean to be French anyway? They're starting to figure that out. So the French may, strangely enough, maybe the group that leads the EU out of their fog. Let's say.
I think it's going to be Hungary, but we'll come back.
Take a break.
All
right, take a little break. Be right back after this.
Something our audience knows well is that what's good for our health can also be good for the environment. Paleo Valley makes snacks, drinks, oils, and more that are nutrient-dense, delicious, and impeccably sourced. Co-founder Autumn Smith champions regenerative farming. It's a level beyond organic.
When you go to the grocery store, 90% of the animal products you're going to buy are from factory farms. And we obviously know factory farms work against nature. They work against animal health and in many ways against human health. Regenerative farms work on taking the landscape or the ecosystem from a degraded state, which the environment right now needs a lot of rehabilitation, and we have lower nutrient levels in our soil than ever before. We found that animal products from regenerative systems have nutritional benefits above and beyond other types of animal products.
Paleo Valley's beef sticks and bone broth protein powder are my favorites, and they come from regenerative farms. And the sticks also come in pasture-raised chicken as well.
We actually just went and visited one of our chicken farmers, and we work with a lot of co-ops and people all over the country.
We are such fans of Autumn, her work, and her extraordinary small business. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for a 15% discount on your first order, or get 20% off when you subscribe. I'm a physician, and I'm always watching out for products that can combat some of the more common frustrations of aging, like decreased energy, brain fog, maybe muscle and joint complaints. I want to share something with you. It's called Strong Cell. Strong Cell's key ingredient is NADH, something you've heard me talk about. It's the energy source for every cell in your body. The challenge is that NAD and NADH decline naturally with age. And with more than 30 trillion cells in your body, you got to keep them healthy. Healthier cells equals healthy you. Strong Cells become part of my daily routine. You might notice a difference: steadier energy, sharper mental clarity, better resiliency. But what stands out to me most is the company's focus on quality. They also use a proprietary delivery system to help the ingredients get where they're intended, to the cells. Supplements have to be absorbed, and they have to get to the cells, and quality matters. If you want to feel more like your younger self, go to strongcell.com and use code DREW for 20% off. That is strongcell.com, promo code DREW. Strong Cell is also backed by a 100% risk-free money-back guarantee. So go check out Strong Cell today. That's strongcell.com, promo code DREW. You only get one body, one chance, so invest in your health and be the best version of yourself. What's going on with your retirement savings? This should concern all of us. Inflation is not some abstract notion. It quietly erodes purchasing power over time.
Central banks have been buying more gold for the last 4 years than they have in the history. And there's a reason for that. We have a love affair with the dollar and with paper currencies, and most people are just in paper. We're attached, and you know how relationships are. What do you say to a patient when they're locked in a relationship with someone who's obviously doesn't have their best interests at heart, but they stay with it?
Denial. And that's why we suggest Augusta Precious Metals. Their entire approach is very different. There's no pressure. They just give you education and information. Augusta explains how gold or silver IRAs work and how physical metals could fit into your retirement account without tax consequences. And they've operated for over a decade with thousands of clients. They put together a free guide that walks you through everything. It's available now at drdrew.com/gold. You'll get the same educational materials that Augusta gave to Susan and myself. So if inflation worries you, Augusta is a great place to start. Go to drdrew.com/gold. That is drdrew.com/GOLD, or just text the word Drew to the number 35052. That's 35052 to get that free guide now.
I wasn't all Dr. Drew or anything.
Why would I screw myself? What am I, Dr. Drew?
And we want to welcome our new sponsor, Strong Cell. It's another NAD product. You know, I'm busy. Yeah, Susan likes it.
I love it. It tastes great.
Drinks it every morning, and it adds vitamins in addition to the NAD.
Goes well with our other sponsored
works with
nutrients that we sell.
Works with fatty. And I am just a huge advocate for finding ways to raise our NAD levels as you age. This is just another way of getting at that biology. All right, Mark Groubert is here with us. We were talking about the fact that Europeans are drawing the line at their dogs that this may be the canine revolution. But before we get into that, what was it, Mark? Are you there, Mark? Is he still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There we are. By the way, did we properly promote your books and your podcast? Is there more to say about that?
Well, I've got a new channel with a guy named Viva, where we go to the movies together. Lord Buckley and Viva go to the movies, and we analyze classic films. Tonight at 7 Eastern time, we'll be doing Scarface. We did Casablanca last week. This is a new venture for David and myself teaming up. And then I've got another channel called What's Up with Lord Buckley, where I'm doing deep dives on American comedians, and I mean deep dives. And then, of course, America's Untold Stories with Eric Hunley, Tuesday and Fridays, analyzing current events.
And when Mark says deep dive, he's going in. I mean, he pulls out stuff you've never heard before. And I saw Viva got in a big Twitter match with Alex Berenson, which is never a good idea. I don't recommend
that's
that.
A weird one.
And I'm forgetting what they were fighting about, but I thought this won't go well for Viva. It was something about
his book. I don't know what's going on there, but his book, Teach Your Children, about
Tell Your Children.
Marijuana.
Tell Your Children. About marijuana.
Yeah, about marijuana abuse. I mean, this story won't go away, Drew. You're well aware of it. I mean, the incredible rise of emergency room visits by older marijuana users, usually edibles, and the kids also with that screaming scrum, or whatever that's called.
Scromiting. So we used to call it scromiting. Is there
Thank you.
Cannabis hyperemesis. But the big headline was the fact that we've known that it caused these high potency cannabis products cause these psychotic illnesses. It looks like bipolar disorder. The two sort of discussions that were being had online was a certain percentage of those develop chronic psychotic illness like schizophrenia. And there are people saying, look, this isn't just bipolar, there's some brain damage from the cannabis. And all I did, by the way, I told my daughter that you be careful what you ask for. She put together a little Substack about, she's a recovering cannabis addict, and she's been going to meetings for over 2 years now. And she knows exactly, in fact, she read the book about a year into her sobriety, Tell Your Children. She's like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? I said, I was telling you the whole time. You weren't listening. As part of this whole thing we call addiction. But she put together a little sort of checklist of do you do any of these things in your relationship with cannabis? Sort of saying, hey, maybe you have a problem here. Are you addicted? Kind of thing. And I said, okay, be careful. I reposted it. People went insane. How could you say something as though I had said something in it? I didn't even comment. I just said, take a look. And I think it is these cannabis lobbies. I think it's the moneyed interest.
True,
again,
it's normal. It's normal.
It's an army.
Yes,
Woo.
yes. Well, the denial, I will stick to, this is again anecdotal, but as a drug counselor, I will say that the denial of marijuana addiction is stronger than any other drug addiction, Drew. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, because it's part of the culture of that drug is it's only glorious, it's only good. And when you are addicted to it, you freaking love it. You love it like you love
friends of mine who are heroin addicts, you're a heroin addict when you're a heroin addict. You just don't want to quit. Yeah. But marijuana addicts deny the addiction exists. They will go to the grave denying its addiction. Alcoholics know they're alcoholics. They may not want to get treatment. Heroin addicts know they're heroin addicts. Only marijuana addicts, the denial is so enormous, Drew.
Yeah, I know. And it's part of the culture of the drug. It's not something, a lot of the things in addiction are about the biology of the drug, but this is this culture where it's only good. And to be fair, by the way, some people can use a lot of it regularly and be fine. Not everyone's an addict. Addict is about consequences and loss of control. But a lot of people, because of the potency again, we've moved into a different territory with this compound because of the concentration. And you mentioned the older folks going. The older folks, 65 plus, are getting a toxic reaction called anticholinergic delirium and seizuring. And it's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty.
Well, Vancouver has now reversed their legalization of hard drugs policy, claiming their experiment has failed. I don't know if you noticed that last week in the news. Yeah. This legalization movement of harder drugs is not going to stop, Drew. It's not going to stop. Well, it's a slippery slope, and NORML has moved on to mushrooms. They've moved on to psychedelics, Drew.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. And you did, I think you did a tweet or something about that kid that's going around exposing hypocrisy and fraud and things. And he is starting to expose the homeless industrial complex in Los Angeles.
Nick Shirley is in LA. Yeah, Nick Shirley.
And he's showing people dying on the streets or nearly dying on the streets, and what the helpers do to help. And that's
let me just explain that to people, because
15 years.
The Narcan needle exchange program is absolutely fascinating. You could be passed out on a curb, administered Narcan, and then a kid will come along giving you a new crack pipe and a new syringe. Yeah. And it's a revolving cycle that goes on 24/7, Drew.
Yeah. No, so Mark, two things. They also give them the heroin. This is the part everyone misses. They're giving the drugs and the alcohol if they want that too. They're giving the drugs in many cases, number one. And number two, gosh darn it, what was the other thing I was going to say about the insanity of all this? Oh no, it was so important. I hate having
you said before
they're
massively anti-12-step programs. That's part of their problem.
Now we have Catherine Burgum, the former First Lady of North Dakota. He's now the Secretary of the Interior, her husband. She's a recovering alcoholic. And RFK Jr. starting to move, and the head of the SAMHSA now is a recovering guy. So you have all three positions.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really good. It's going to move in that direction. But hold on. So I know what I was going to say, which is that, Mark, I'm in favor of a needle exchange program. I'm not in favor of a needle handout program. Exchange means you bring your used needles in and you get a needle back. Not that they're
why would you want the government? Why would you want the government involved in anything related to the perpetuation of addiction?
Well,
you're an anti-government guy. Why would you carve out a special area of the government to be involved with any program like this?
Well, I at least was in principle, from a sort of clinical standpoint, in favor of needle exchange, if that's what they wanted to do. And by the way, if you're doing needle exchange properly, when they come to exchange the needles, you do something called motivational enhancement therapy, interviewing, where you get them to treatment.
How successful is the conversion rate to rehab, Drew?
Statistically, but to be fair to them, part of the problem is the stuff you and I have talked about for years is how shitty the rehab programs are. We could juice that up. We could make that so much better, so easily and so inexpensively. It could be done very reasonably.
Is RFK coming out? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to say, hopefully the RFK
thing, then we got to go.
Right. The RFK plan is coming out. So we'll analyze that. I'll come back and we'll talk about that when RFK's addiction plan comes out.
Fair enough. And maybe we'll have Nithya Raman in the mayor's office by then, and we can.
That I highly doubt. That I highly doubt.
Oh my God, would that be a disaster? She, for everyone remembers who she is. She is the woman that was outraged and furious with Toyota for making it so easy to steal catalytic converters. We have a massive problem with catalytic converters being stolen in Los Angeles. And mind you, to steal a catalytic converter, you need a blowtorch or a sawzall and an industrial jack, and a light. You have to go under the car for a while and cut out from the chassis this device. It's too easy. That's that thinking that was manifesting there. But anyway, Mark, thank you as always. Appreciate you being here, and you and I will no doubt talk very soon.
Okay, Drew. Thanks a lot.
All right. By the way, RFK's plan is to have these sort of work camps that are very inexpensive, but they're really I've got to get to him. Well, I know the guy at SAMHSA will straighten this out too, but they've let people get so sick, their brains so destroyed, their bodies so destroyed. We have to get people in shape to be able to graduate to these programs so they can get the long-term care and ultimately find sobriety. All right, so Shane Cashman is up next. We're going to get deeper into the issue of MKUltra and other things. I want to give you particulars of where you can follow Shane. Hold on. Caleb, for some reason, here we are. It's not in its usual format. X is Shane Cashman. ShaneCashman.com is all. Shane is Shane. Cashman, just like it sounds. Book from 2022, Tales from the Inverted World. Close Contact with Ghost, UFO, Serial Killers, and Simulation Theory. Also, the newer book, Tales from the Inverted World, Ghosts of the Civil War, or should we just call it the Clown World? But Shane, welcome back. And did you hear about President Trump's announcement that he's going to divulge what he knows about non-human biologics?
Yeah, I heard it. I think if it was that important, he would tell us tomorrow, not wait until July.
That's probably true. That's probably true. And just to give people a little primer, tell me about the Close Contact with the Inverted World, Ghosts of the Civil War. What's that book about?
Yeah, that's the time I spent in the town of Washington, Georgia, where the Confederacy was dissolved and this Confederate gold went missing, and the town has, since the end of the Civil War, been searching for the gold. So I went down there with families that have been in that town since the Revolution and went looking for some gold.
Come up with anything? It's a good time for gold.
If I did, I can't say it on air. The federal government will come after me.
All right, help me talk about MKUltra. It's something, it sounds fantastic, this story about the government and doctors and scientists doing these mad doctor experiments on people. I had heard that they did a lot of the more extraordinary stuff on the opiate addicts from the Kentucky program, where the government maintained a sort of an addiction studies program. They kind of developed methadone there. They actually developed the modern notion of drug withdrawal and detox in that unit. But they took some of they took the black gentleman recovering with opiate addiction. I don't know why they just, you can superimpose a racist lens on what these guys were doing, and gave these guys, I think there were 22 of them, massive doses of LSD. Which was part of the program, using LSD for mind control. What should we know about MKUltra?
All right. So in 1951, Allen Dulles, the director of the CIA, who I'll say was born with a club foot, because I think that's interesting, because he hired a chemist within the CIA by the name of Sidney Gottlieb, who was also born with a club foot, to design a weapon, a bioweapon, to control the minds of people, to create super soldiers, perhaps Manchurian candidates, to erase your mind, to brainwash. And from there, about 2 years later, Gottlieb being a Jewish man, hired a Nazi that our government hired after World War II was over through Operation Paperclip, Kurt Blome, who was a biowarfare specialist for Nazi Germany. And those two conspired to create the mind control bioweapons, truth serum, and LSD, which is, they went to Eli Lilly, the pharmaceutical company, and Eli Lilly made all of their LSD, which turned into a big operation of secretly dosing people. So it started with that. They secretly dosed their colleagues and experimented like that.
I mean, the ethics of this from the medical and scientific people. This is the part that amongst many things, two things. One was, it seems like it kind of branched out. It kind of went underground, and I want you to tell me about that. But more importantly, that how did these people? This is the part that I'm struggling with today's world. So it's what jumped out at me with this story. How did these people convince themselves that this was an okay thing or a good thing to do? I mean, so clearly the part where they were dropping LSD in their peers' coffee, and one of the guys killed himself. And that's when they went, maybe maybe we're not doing such good work here, or maybe there's a problem with what we're doing. But that the group think, it just, I can't get my head around it.
Well, I would say that fear is the first weapon to control someone's mind. And we're talking about the Cold War. So a lot of these guys like Dulles, Gottlieb, and now Kurt Blome and, George White, all these people within the CIA, Jolly West, they need to defeat the Soviets. They are afraid that the Soviets have designed a weapon that can brainwash people or could create Manchurian candidates, because we had POWs return from Soviet Russia that were all of a sudden like spewing pro-communist stuff, which then led to Gottlieb doing what they did. I think they were cold-blooded. I don't think they cared. I think they said this is for the best interest of national security, and they'll do what they have to do. If you look back at the things that survived, when Richard Helms, the CIA director, in I think 1973, destroyed a lot of these MKUltra documents. The stuff did survive that we saw during the Church Committee a few years later. And you see that these people were cold-blooded. They thought they were doing what was right. They planned assassinations. They dosed their colleagues. You mentioned the one who committed suicide. That's even up for grabs. You don't really know. That's Frank Olson, the first, as far as we know, death from the MKUltra. He was a Stanford guy and a colleague of Gottlieb. Gottlieb gave him the acid. And after a psychotic break, he leapt out of a window, or he fell out of a window, or he pushed out of a window. We really don't know. But Gottlieb went to Frank Olson's family and said he either jumped or fell out of a window, which didn't make any sense to the family until like 20 years later. They read about Sidney Gottlieb's obituary. And they're like, oh, he was a dark sorcerer, referred to him as, who created mind control things. And that might have been what happened to their father and husband. Terrible stuff. I don't think they care. I think they wanted to do it. They enjoy doing it. And most of the government, from back then to today, they see us as lab rats. They conduct these experiments constantly.
I want to hear about today in a second, but I wanted your opinion on this one sort of side sort of topic, which is the extent to which I've noticed that I've started seeing a lot of documentaries about musicians and the whole Laurel Canyon movement and some of the people who became movie stars, that it was really serendipity. It wasn't special talent or anything. It was just sort of right people, right time with these strange movements that were going on during the 70s and even into the 80s. But there was some rumor about, all the kids in Laurel Canyon that, could form these rock bands that didn't have to get a job, had families in the military. And there was some question about some of them, Manson being in the mix with all this, being involved with MKUltra. I wonder if you have an opinion about that.
Oh, I have a lot. So thanks to Tom O'Neill's amazing book, Chaos, through his research, we know that it seems like Charles Manson was an asset for the CIA. He was always in federal prison, breaking parole, somehow let out of prison, allowed to go to Mexico, then told to go to Haight-Ashbury, get involved in the drug scene. And his parole officer, we now know, was involved in a federally funded drug experiments on humans. So there's a lot of research in Tom O'Neill's book about how they were probably dosing Manson and turning him into an asset, and that's what the family became. And now with Laurel Canyon, another great book for people out there, if you're interested in this, is Dave McGowan's book, Weird Scenes from Inside the Canyon. And it talks about all these strange connections. It's insane.
So crazy in there. So crazy. And these
we have Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison's dad was the guy in charge of Gulf of Tonkin. Frank Zappa's dad was a warfare chemist for the military. They could be coincidences, but when you read that book and you really look it up, because you don't just take the book at its face value, go look it up, you'll see that there are some strange connections. And I will say the CIA loves to hijack countercultures. And in my opinion, the anti-war movement, which started out as mostly like, buttoned up dudes with glasses who were Christian, was mutated into hippies because of acid, thanks to the CIA needing to discredit the anti-war movement. So then that kind of gave birth to the counterculture movement, which I do like a lot of that music. But like Mamas and the Papas, Zappa, like I said, all those people might have been closely related to the CIA, whether they knew it or not. But that's something the CIA does. They had a hand in modern art by inflating the value of modern art to get back at Russia. They had a hand in hip hop. So that's what they kind of do, because they like to control the thing that seems like it will be a dissident voice against the narrative, the dominant narrative.
So you're tapping into what the theme that was talking to Mark about and sort of emerging tonight, which is that it's the sort of, to me, the unfathomable, uncanny, scary aspects of things that even are going around today, there's something blowing winds into it, whether it's money or intelligence organizations or foreign governments. It's too much. It gets too much momentum. How do you see, let's take MKUltra around to the present day. How do you see those sorts of movements playing out right now?
Everybody's MKUltraing themselves. It's like MKUltra's wet dream. And that's
with the phone?
It's that, it's our food, it's the poison that we eat and drink. And I think it's all because it all started with about chemistry, what we put in our bodies and what we show them. Because, just going back really quick to the 50s and 60s, they talk about psychic driving, putting people into comas. How can we make tabula rasa, a clean slate in our brains? So I believe over years, it never went underground. It just became mainstream, and people don't realize, all of us are susceptible to the mind control via the algorithm, which has been weaponized against us. And we know that. I mean, we all know that because of the censorship that happened during lockdowns. But, we've seen whistleblowers from Meta talk about how they've designed algorithms to actually hunt down people if they seem sad or not, and then they can sell things to them. So there's a whole levels of this mind control, which is really terrifying. But you have to always be aware that, I try to remind people, just be skeptical of anything that confirms any bias you have, because right now online, if any bias you have is confirmed, it sounds good, but they're trying to sell you on an idea, and you don't want to become a slave to that narrative. It might be true, but just do your due diligence, especially if you care, if you're a political junkie like myself.
Yeah, I'm in Central Europe right now, and I'd been away from my phone for a while, and I went in kind of deep today, kind of preparing for this today, and I sort of looked at things. I was going broader in sort of the things that I normally sort of look at, and oh my God, did it pick up again? Wind just like blew, all these things started raining down on me. I was so upset. Within about an hour, I was just like, oh my God, it's just crazy how the electronics in this, the computer part of this is doing a lot of the work for people, whether you know it or not. And I'm sure there's somebody out there adjusting the dials to their point of view. Because when I go on TikTok, it happens immediately, happens very fast. At least
as much as I love social media, it can be great. It's also, you have to realize, a tool for the establishment, the government, to try to control your mind. And like I said, they've been doing that for so long. It's kind of like the new LSD. But now everyone has it in their hands at all times. So to be very, very conscious of the fact that, why are you seeing this? Why is everyone who's running one of these companies a defense contractor? That's Elon, that's Zuckerberg to some degree, and they're still invited to the table through all these administrations. And there's a reason. It's not just because they want to feed their AI your thoughts. They also need to steer the narrative.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of just such a, it's scary. I just think it's scary. I don't like hysterias. I think true believers are dangerous because that's again confirming biases and just clinging to an ideological frame rather than being open to objective reality and pragmatism. Before I let you go, I'm guessing the Epstein file has got your attention as well. I guess my big question to you would be, is this Trump is like, why are people interested in the behavior of bad people? These are bad people. Why worry about it? And it seems to be growing into something much more. I guess the question would be, why doesn't the Justice Department just open some cases and see if they can prove something?
Because it's all their friends. It's really upsetting. It's really upsetting. I think the Epstein files say a lot about our culture in many ways. It's an insight into what appears to be a lot of children being hurt. And I care about protecting the innocent. We need to protect our children. We've known about Ghislaine and Jeffrey. They were convicted of these crimes. We know Jeffrey got this sweetheart deal in Florida, allowed to leave prison. The whole thing's really shady. But then, so we have that. And then this other part that you're getting these insights to, and I've been pouring through these emails and messages for 2 weeks now. These people, these elites, the ruling class, they're behind the scenes in the emails talking about engineering or manufacturing wars, how to distract the public with war, with social media, like what we were just talking about, how they can profit off of the collapse, the pandemics, right? The Bill Gates things. So it's not just absolute evil, depravity, that these people are into, and the blackmail and Epstein being involved with all world governments. We're talking Israel, France, our government, Russia. He's everywhere. We see another passport for him with another name. I think when it comes down to Trump seems to be, he's friends with Howard Lutnick. And Howard Lutnick lied to us. He said on air recently, he gave up on Epstein the second he met him. And now we find out totally lied. He's our commerce secretary. So there's a lot of people involved. And I'm not saying everyone who's involved is guilty or who's talking to him. What I will say, though, is talking to Epstein post-conviction of hurting kids is pretty suspicious to me. These people just want power and access. And that's what Epstein gave them, like a carrot he was dangling. And these people like Elon, Zuckerberg, you name it, all these people, they're all talking to him after the conviction. Yeah. That alone is enough for me to be infuriated with all of them. But then you get into it. And Bannon as well, which is really shocking stuff, the messages between Bannon and Epstein, because it's all like accelerationism, but I don't like it.
It's so horrific. My prediction is they're going to eventually release everything. I don't see how they avoid it. Yeah. As they say, with the public, you can get anything done. Without the public, you can't get anything done. And so if we can really get anything done, I think the public is going to demand transparency and then some sort of action for some of these women. It looks to me like it'd be really hard to prove these things, but why not try? Yeah. Why aren't they trying?
Yeah,
the process will be punishment for some of them.
Yeah, I'm into hearing testimonies. I mean, we're going to hear from the Clintons, allegedly. We're going to hear from Les Wexner, which is pretty epic. Who knows what will come from it? But that's a step in the right direction. Yeah. I love the transparency, but I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath for real accountability, which is what I would love to see, because now we're seeing co-conspirators named and all that stuff. But what I do see is that they're talking about really depraved stuff. All that runs the whole gamut of evil.
It's so horrific. It's so look. It came out of the 70s, everybody. I'm telling you, that's where this all got started. That's where the wheels came off the wagon in terms of childhood sexual abuse and exploitation of women. It just completely went off, and these people kept amplifying for many decades afterwards, and maybe this will finally turn around here, but there still needs to be some accountability somewhere. But listen, Shane, I appreciate you.
When I think about Epstein, I think about Manson. So for some reason, I make a parallel to how, he created this cult and he just did all this stuff that, was all really disgusting, but he was like a cult leader, Epstein. But he did it in a different way. Of course, he was with leaders and he used sex as his drug.
But he used money. He used money, sex, whatever the person's weakness was, whatever they wanted, he'd lure them in, and they'd be like puppies. Oh, you're so wonderful, Mr. Epstein. You're so rich. You have such a great life. And then if they needed children or if they needed women, whatever it was, he would give them their thing. That they were such shitwads that they didn't just.
But it was weird because a lot of the emails and men were just like joking about women like they were trash, and that's where the sex addiction comes in, and the addiction to, being part of the party and this sort of nefarious secret thing that he was doing, and it just reminds me of Manson. I don't know why. I just correlate.
It has some of those correlations. Yeah,
I think
Shane, where do you want people to go to find you? Where should we find you?
The show is every Monday through Thursday night at 10 o'clock. That's Inverted World. And you can find us on YouTube and Rumble. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shane Cashman.
Shane, we always appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much for coming on. Everybody loves you here, Shane.
Thank you. You guys are the best. Thank you very much. Bye.
Take care. All right. So next up is Christina Bobb. She's a Washington, D.C. based attorney specializing in national security law. She got into a whole crazy legal web that I think she's now out of. She's going to give us an update on that. And I still have yet to take a break, so let me do that also. And when she comes in, I have a question, which is, I need a constitutional law analysis. Why is the supremacy clause being undermined or questioned, or what happened to that after this?
More of our audience is taking health and wellness into their own hands, and they're doing it with The Wellness Company. For a discount on the best-selling products and everything on their website, for that matter, go to drdrew.com/TWC. The medical emergency kits are among the most popular items. There are 8 different kits, each depending on your individual needs. Inside, you'll find antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, first aid, anti-nauseal, skin treatments, and a kids kit with EpiPen and one for travel. The advantage to having an emergency kit in the house is immediacy. You don't have to run to the urgent care and spend a ton of money for all that infrastructure or wait for the pharmacy to open or try to find a doctor. And then there's Ultimate Spike Detox Supplement with nattokinase, turmeric, and bromelain. It has helped the vaccine injured. And anyone who is concerned about cardiovascular issues caused by lingering spike from the virus or the shots, the Ultimate Spike Detox is for you. One of TWC's top sellers is a topical ivermectin cream. It treats inflammation of the skin, issues like rosacea. The wellness company is always innovating. So go to drdrew.com/TWC to see what they have to offer and get a 10% discount there.
The other day he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, the V-Shred's working." He likes it when I try to lift it for him.
Nice. There's an excitement that comes with doing these kinds of workout that kind of sustains you through the day.
It's exhilarating.
It's not working out hours in the gym. It's not running on a treadmill forever. It's not killing yourself with diet. These are all very reasonable recommendations. You just got to follow it. We're actually really genuinely very excited about what we're getting out of this. We like doing it together. We're both in on this, and it's been a real fun adventure. I don't know where we stop.
In the first 2 weeks, I lost 5 pounds. So There you go.
In your 20s, it's easy, right? We put on muscle easily. We're fit. We got tons of stamina. But as you get older, you may not be able to lose weight as quickly or as easily. You may not be able to put muscle on so easily. And joints and muscles sometimes start to hurt. And you may think or may have been told that there's nothing you can do about it other than taking more pills, eating more salads, or just spending endless hours at the gym. Well, that isn't true. Thousands of people are in the best shape of their lives merely because they've taken the time to do 3 things. No crazy diets, no extraordinary workouts that can injure yourself or exhaust yourself. Just a simple plan that has been proven to work. Rather than me explaining this to you for 30 minutes, there's a 30-second quiz you can take. So if you want to learn more right now, click the link below to get your personal life plan. Hey, Dr. Drew here, and we are interested in health and longevity, and the longevity nutrient is Fatty 15, discovered amazingly by a veterinarian who was responsible for the Navy's fleet of dolphins. Turns out dolphins are healthier when they have adequate amounts of pentadecanoic acid, which is C15. It also, for us, it helps humans as well, reduces the oxidative stress on our cell membranes, which is part of the aging process called ferroptosis. So she takes it, I take it, whole family takes it. And if you'd like some, go to drdrew.com/fatty15 for yours. There are discounts there.
Oh my God, look, Drew, it's a dolphin. Oh my gosh.
Favorite ad of all time. All right. Christina Bobb, like I said, is a Washington, D.C. based attorney, national security law. Christina, welcome back and give us an update on your legal wranglings.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Drew. I am still a criminal defendant. It is not over. The court found that our constitutional rights were violated through the grand jury process and remanded the indictment back to the grand jury back in like May, end of May, beginning of June last year. And it's sitting, waiting. It's at the Arizona Supreme Court. The prosecutor, the Arizona Attorney General, has appealed it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and we're just waiting. Hopefully, I have all the confidence in the world that the Supreme Court is going to side with us because the Court of Appeals did, and it is the right ruling. But just waiting to have it thrown out.
I'm a little confused. You said it went back to the grand jury. Are they reconsidering it?
So that's the question. So the lower court, the trial court remanded it, said if you want to take this case forward, you have to take the case back to the grand jury. That was the lower court's ruling, and she appealed that ruling up. And so if the Supreme Court does dismiss it, which we think they will, she has to decide, do you want to reopen the grand jury or do you want to just let it go?
It's just such a classic example of if somebody wants to make your life miserable with the legal system, it's pretty easy to do, even when you've done nothing.
Yeah, as long as you're unethical and you don't care about the laws or morals, yeah, you can make it really challenging. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, these people have Trump derangement. They believe they're doing the right thing. They believe you're evil for being involved with that administration. Therefore, you know, again, it's this brainwashing, which is, of course, a moral citizen would fight against the Nazis or would try to kill Hitler. Right. And if the media has brainwashed people to believing that's who you are, what do you do to stand up to that?
Yeah, well, quite honestly, I think, yes, that is what's happening with me personally, but I think we're seeing that across the nation on both sides. People are convinced that the other side is evil, and that justifies really aggressive, in some cases, I think too aggressive behavior. Obviously, I think the justice system has been very hard on conservatives, but we're seeing conservatives push back and say, now we want to throw liberals in prison and all that. So the stakes are getting very, very high. I think, everyone thinks we need to de-escalate it. I don't know entirely how to do it, other than people need to really think for themselves and, watch alternative media, go to other sources of media to get your news besides the places that just feed off your fears. Because it's that fear. It's that, oh my gosh, my life will never be the same if this person is allowed to walk free, like crazy stuff that doesn't really matter. But that's, people genuinely believe it. And so I think
in addition to getting an update from you, I asked you to come in here because I'm confused about so many things.
I don't think you are, actually.
Well, so here's my basic frame.
Yeah.
There was a constitutional crisis, what did Andrew Jackson's area call it? The what was it, where they almost secession crisis. There was a secession crisis in the 1820s, and Andrew Jackson, being a smart dude, used the logic that Abraham Lincoln later used, which is this union, this more perfect union, that is what the Constitution is about, forming a more perfect union, is a contract amongst equals, and therefore one side is not in a position to just end the contract. You can't do that. And that logic, when there was further talk of secession in the 1860s, Abraham Lincoln said, okay, you're out of your natural alignment within the Constitution. But by the way, I put my hand on the Bible and I swore an oath that I would protect and provision federal properties where they exist, which included a fort off the coast of South Carolina, which he then provisioned, and South Carolina attacked. And that started the Civil War. But the point being is that was millions of people have died around not just defending the Constitution, but specifically defending the Supremacy Clause, or the president's obligation to fulfill the Supremacy Clause. Why is that an issue in Minnesota and Los Angeles? Because somebody said, sorry, we've decided something different. You're not, it's not, that's not in the contract. You can't do that.
Right. They can't do that. And the federal law, the Constitution, and prior Supreme Court rulings, their opinions in other cases, very clearly say you can't do that. This really isn't even up for debate. I did a little bit more research before coming on your show, looking into, the Constitution annotation, which is the government's basically blog version of the Constitution, where they have all their commentary on there. And I read through this, and even the government says, yeah, this really isn't even a question. Like, the Supremacy Clause exists, it's real, and federal law preempts. That's the rule. So it appears.
So I hear all this rhetoric. It's destroying the Constitution. He can't do that. It's illegal. It's all this stuff. What in the world is in their head? Yeah. And they must have some notion in their head when they say stuff like that.
I think you nailed it when you called it rhetoric. That's what it is. It's rhetoric, and it's designed for the masses. I haven't seen a legitimate legal case or legal argument that they've brought forward to really push this. It is just that. It's just rhetoric. It's meant to divide. It's meant to cause confusion. It's meant to sow dissension away from what President Trump is trying to do. And quite honestly, they've done it pretty masterfully. I don't think this is spontaneous. I don't think that this is something that just kind of accidentally happened, because the fact that they're coupling it with law enforcement and trying to undermine federal law enforcement, the federal supremacy, and basically get away with bringing all of these illegal aliens in and trying to change the voter block and all the fraud that they're doing. undermining law enforcement is essential to accomplish everything else that they're doing. Because if you undermine law enforcement, you have no accountability, and you're not going to have accountability. And so,
well, there's another interesting. I saw Jasmine Crockett say some things that were truly outlandish, essentially saying that if somebody comes in this country illegally, police force cannot do anything. They're not allowed to do anything with somebody who comes in here illegally. And I thought, wait a minute. Oh, I part of the mess here, and you use the word law enforcement, which is people have forgotten or somehow, again, been brainwashed that the police's job is to enforce the law. Law enforcement. If they would like to change the law, they are the legislature, and they may do so. And then the law enforcement police force will enforce that law. But this idea that law enforcement, police is not a law enforcement organization, think about that. Yeah. That's so crazy.
No, you're exactly right. But they can't change the law because the voters don't actually want it. And so none of them would win re-election. They would have a really hard time campaigning on the fact that, I want to allow rapists to go free, although we're starting to kind of see that happen, which is bizarre. But that's a very difficult position to take in a campaign. So they can't actually do that. So instead, they just undermine it. And quite honestly, that's easier. It's easier to just say, hey, I'm going to uphold the laws. And oh, by the way, you should all hate them, and you should all hate the people who follow them. That's easier than actually, following the process and getting something done. But I think you nailed it when you were talking about Fort Sumter and the secession issue, because that is the road that we're on. And I'm not in any way saying we're heading towards civil war or secession or whatever. But if you have all of these states declaring we're not going to follow federal law, they're effectively saying, I'm taking it to an extreme to make the point, but they're effectively saying we don't want to agree with the union. At its essence, what the law is a group of rules. It's a collection of rules that we as a society have agreed upon. This is how we want to live. These are the rules to live in this society. And when you have a state saying, okay, well, we don't want to live in that society, we don't want to do that, it's heading down that road. And so,
but when you say we don't want to do that, I mean, it was, Hamilton's monumental work with the Constitution was about creating this contract that brought these diverse, at the time were practically countries, together to live in a federal system. Yeah. Now, to be fair, the idea was a kind of a not too strong federal system, and states' rights should still have sort of a significant role. But there was this Article 2, Section 6, isn't it? Which is that when the time comes, the federal law takes over if it's exerted, the Supremacy Clause. And, which is the more recent thing, it really hasn't even been the Supremacy Clause. It's just been that the president has to protect the federal properties. He has to. He swore an oath to do that. What do they think? Yeah. I guess because they weren't doing it in Seattle or something under Biden, that therefore presidents shouldn't do it, maybe?
Yeah, well, I think that's what they're going for. And like I said, I think this is just an orchestrated attempt to undermine the laws of the United States and weaken our society. And I will go so far as to say, I believe that Republicans are involved in this. I mean, if Republicans really want to say, oh, we're the party of law and order, we enforce the laws, we support the laws, all that stuff, then they should be confirming the U.S. attorneys across the country that the president is putting forward in order to enforce the laws. But there's I want to say like 93, 95 some U.S. attorney positions across the United States. And I believe the last time I checked, President Trump had confirmed 4. And that's not because he's not putting them forward. It's because the Republican Senate isn't allowing it. And so Republicans are very much involved in undermining the laws and undermining the law enforcement in this country. And you have to ask why. I mean, you can see on the surface what they're getting from it. They get to be the party that's not insane. They get to be the party that's not running around burning federal property and doing all the kinds of crazy things that we're seeing the liberals doing. But they're certainly complicit in it, and they're helping it. And,
Marjorie Taylor Greene has been making the rounds talking about that issue, how it's, business as usual on both sides is very passive, and they're afraid of standing up and getting their head cut off by somebody who's in a higher position of authority or whatnot. And I thought what she was doing was pretty interesting, the what she has been attempting to expose. But it does bring up another topic in my mind. I hope you don't mind me changing topics completely. What did you think of Pam Bondi's appearance before the committee?
I thought that was kind of rough. And I hate to say that. I know Pam, I like her a lot. I think she's got good intentions and wants good for the nation. I have not been one to say she needs to be removed. And I still don't think that she needs to be removed, specifically because I don't know that whoever comes in next is going to be better, is going to change anything. I don't like throwing people out just to continue more of the same. That said, I don't think the hearing went well. And I think the Trump administration has put itself in a difficult position by taking the position of we're not releasing everything. I think you're right. I saw on your segment with Shane, you said everything's going to come out, and it is. But when you take the position of, we're not going to let it out, then you make it very, very easy for the left to attack you, because you should put it out. I mean, that's kind of the obvious answer. And so,
I don't think it's a left-right thing. I think people are just disgusted with the whole thing. They want to work it through. They want the people to be held accountable. And personally, not only, I mean, it sort of goes without saying, but there's another layer to this too, which is the hubris of this ensconced elite. And forget their disgusting behavior, just their hubristic sense of specialness and that they're above everything. Yeah. It's disgusting. And that's the part that for me needs to be dismantled. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think, the sex crimes with kids and molestation, all of the horrible sex trafficking things that's in there, that's morally repugnant and terrible. And I think we can all agree those people need to be held accountable. That's not the purpose of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. That a lot of the times was the blackmail material, was the bribery material. But really what they were doing is influencing nations, influencing wealthy institutions. It was an influence operation, whether you want to say it was CIA, Mossad, whatever. It could have been, one guy above Jeffrey Epstein who just wanted to control a bunch of countries. I'm not placing blame anywhere. But it was an influence operation. And that's what needs to be held accountable. And it has to be, those guts need to be ripped out of the United States, or we're not going to be a free country, because there's always this underlying influence operation that's continuing.
No, that's what I was talking about. That's been the theme of this show, which is that so much of, I was talking about the MKUltra and how these doctors and the military thought this was a good idea. How do they think that? But these things, these bad ideas get going. But when they really get the momentum that we see today, it feels like somebody's blowing winds into the sails. And that, I think, is what these people were doing. And that's the part that just talk about, the opposite of democracy. That is the opposite. And it goes down as, it's corporate government. No, it's elite individuals with lots of money.
It's doing a small number of people who are,
which is, that is mad scientist shit. That's mad doctor shit. That's, you know what I mean? That's nobody should be in that position. Yeah. It's not okay.
It's not okay. And it's something that affects every single person, certainly in the United States, and I would assume on the planet, because if you have a small number of elite individuals who we don't know who they are, who are pulling the strings of our elected officials, and I use elected loosely because, we don't actually know who these people are pulling the strings, then the will of the American people, which is supposed to be the governing force of this nation, no longer matters. We lose. And they can pretend and say, "Oh no, you still have a voice. We're not deplatforming you. We're not censoring you. You can still live your life." It pulls the guts out of the purpose of our Bill of Rights, the purpose of being a free nation, and that's the real danger. And that's what I think Americans really want. Obviously, all the sex crime stuff needs to be held accountable. It's weird. It's gross. It's like this, morbid curiosity thing. But the real issue is who controls this nation, and it better be the American people. And if it's not, that needs to get fixed.
Yeah. Although we've been talking about the scary influence and the brainwashing, all this stuff, there is a phrase that's been coming out of the growing sort of consensus in France that caught my attention, which is, and I don't hear it in the United States, The people are sovereign. The people are sovereign. That's it. We are the sovereigns, period. And if the people are being superseded by other forces, we lose our sovereignty and the whole system is a sham at that point. The people are sovereign. The sovereignty of the American people is what should be our concern. And to the extent that is undermined, it is disgusting. It is disgusting.
Yep. I agree.
So here we are. We've solved all the world problems, Christina. Thank you for doing so with me. When are you going to know more about your nightmare coming? I thought Trump had given you some sort of
He
I
did.
guess this is all state stuff. You're still having state
he gave
problems?
us the federal pardon, which is great. It's nice. I appreciate it, but it doesn't really impact anything. This is all state case. So the motion, everything's been completely briefed at the Supreme Court, Arizona Supreme Court. So whenever they feel like it, they can rule, which could be tomorrow. It could be 6 months from now. I don't know.
Well, listen, I wish you the best. Where do you want people to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on X or Instagram at Christina_Bob, or my website, just ChristinaBob.com.
Great. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Christina Bob, everybody. All right, so we are making our way back across the Atlantic, and we will be back in our studio on Tuesday. We've got we're piecing things together still. We've got Luke Rudkowski coming up, JP Sears in here, Joel Pollack, Jesse Kelly, Bob Forrest going to make an appearance from Celebrity Rehab, if you remember him. There's a lot of guests. I've got Emily Barsh and I have been going back and forth on some really interesting people that we're trying to line up for you guys. So we appreciate it. And if you have suggestions, it's contact@drdrew.com. Caleb, how did this go technically? We got our coat hangers out and our shoestring. I think we
wonderfully. I was so surprised. There's such low latency, even though you're all the way overseas on the other side of the world. It all worked perfectly. So well done.
It's weird, but it now shows that now that we now know how to do this literally anywhere. We do it in New York and Pasadena all the time, but now we can do it anywhere. So this is great news for us because it gives us some flexibility. And as I opened the show, I was saying that we took our family member, close family friend, back to Poland and installed her with her family, and she's living independently. But we're still very concerned. I mean, she's got some disabilities and things, and so she needs help and assistance and adjustments. And but the point is that I'm going to make is that we're going to go back to Poland one of these days, not too distant future. You need to say something. Susan's coming in. You okay? Okay.
I'm just very proud of my tech work today,
yes.
Caleb.
Did a great job. Really
good. Good job. Good job.
And we're using the iPhone, and it's working.
She moved this thing around the room 20 times to get the right shot and everything. And where the
room, though, I should show everybody.
But also, no.
Let's show everybody. It's pretty cool. We got an upgrade. See, here's our camera and stuff. There's Drew.
That's the wrong side.
Oh.
Nope. On the other, there you go. We almost did this properly. Now we got a big mess on our hands. Okay, I will sign out, but let me look quickly at the streams and the comments. It felt like YouTube was very busy today.
And thank you, Emily, for your bookings last minute.
Yes, of course. Oh my God, yes. Turn that off if you don't mind, because it's
derailing you.
We're in. This is a secret bass ring. We are in Austria now, but in Poland there was technically some good stuff too.
The women were snazzy.
As we were saying, we could only get our mileage to work out of Austria to get home, so we had to come to Austria after Warsaw.
I've always noticed if the women are happy in a country, then the country's doing well.
But she actually pointed out the women are snazzy in Poland. What are they in Austria?
They're pretty. They're very
proper, right? So proper.
Well, you can tell they move with purpose. They're smart.
Yeah.
They're, nice, proper.
Looking at the Rumble rants, Patrick Bet David, we've had him before. Certainly, Caleb, or rather, Emily can work on that. What do you think about Jeffrey Epstein, Eisen Aid? We just did a whole conversation about that with a couple of different guests.
Glad he's dead.
There's more to be discussed. Let me see if I can see anything else that you guys are talking about.
Ghislaine is the interesting one.
Now they're saying there were other women that replaced her that did some of the grooming and stuff that might have been more duplicitous or, yeah.
That's so sad.
Okay, Wink 80. I can't go backwards for some reason on the.
What is Marjorie? I want to get Marjorie Taylor.
Get her back, MTG.
Yeah,
she was good when she was on here with us.
Yeah, and she was fighting the good fight until she left, and she was right.
Susan, what are you talking about? Dolphins in captivity on the Rumble Rants. What happened there? Was there a chat about
long conversation about dolphins behind your back?
We had quite that. We love that ad.
We started with you laughing about every time the dolphins come on.
It's so good.
You can thank Chad from Your Mom's House, who now works for us doing our clips.
Yep.
It's pretty funny.
That is Your Mom's House
Are
flavor.
we still on? Is Caleb with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still on. You're very zoomed in though all of a sudden.
Dr. Joseph McCullough.
This was fun though. I mean, I had a good time doing this here.
Okay, good.
I'm glad we lost the cable to the camera because I like the iPhone better. Although
Casper the Friendly Ghost, Spotless My Ass. What is? Oh, you're talking about somebody else that said something.
We had a lot of new listeners today because of Shane. He brought in a new audience. The time of day
too was kind of weird, since it's like it is 10:30 at night here.
And make sure you go to drdrew.com/sponsors. Get all the link to the companies that we love.
Your daddy, you don't know what Your Mom's House is? Your Mom's House is Christina P. and Tom Segura's platform. I had a show there for a long time.
Called Your Mom's House.
Called Dr. After Dark, but Your Mom's House is the platform. They're very good. Check it out. I will not get a deep venous thrombosis on the long flight. Check it out. All right, we're just having a good time here with you guys. It's Caleb's.
We're wide awake now. It's 10:30 in the morning. We don't have anything
10:30 at night. 10:30 at night.
Sorry, you guys. We're still talking.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Again, we'll be back at our normal time, which is 2 o'clock, right? 2 o'clock on Tuesday, 4 o'clock on Wednesday, and 2 o'clock on Thursday. Again, next week, we'll be back. Hopefully, we can work our way back in California. And thank you for being here today. And thank you to our guests. And thank you to Emily Barsh and Caleb for helping us pull this all together. And Susan for technically stringing this thing out. I'm kind of amazing that we pulled this off. Thank you guys. And we'll see you on Tuesday.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. Emily Barsh is our content producer. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.